All righty, we are back in the 1994 alternate universe. Game started in the beginning of the 93 season. Simming through that, those are all in prior videos. Now we're past the halfway point of the 1994 season. So we just passed the trade deadline. Trade deadline was yesterday. And now we're getting into, of course, August and September. So August 1st here, let's look at the standings and see where teams are at. Some teams made some big moves here before the trade deadline. So Blue Jays and Yankees, tight race over here in the East. We'll just run through who's on these teams, 1994, but there has been a year of moving around as far as development and talent and stuff. Carlos Delgado, top-ranked catcher in the game. Yes, he started off his career as a catcher. Got 31 jacks, which was his total last year. He was rookie of the year last year. So guy looks like a stud. He's almost on base of 400 this year. He's slugging well over 600. Olerud, third best first baseman. Guy's a stud as well. Got Roberto Alomar. All these guys were with the Blue Jays in the early 90s as well. Even Alex Gonzalez, he's a newbie, year 2 guy. I don't know if technically he's still a rookie. I guess he probably had enough at bats last year, but real good defensively. Look at that range, 70 out of the 80 scale. Great at turn and double play and above average on air and arm. Really fast and not a bad hitter, especially for a shortstop. So he's one of their weaker players right now. So Blue Jays looking good. Devon White in center, good pitching. As you can see, they're top in the MLB in runs scored. Actually, I believe this is the AL. They're top in the AL, runs scored, on base, OPS, so they can hit. They're also not bad at pitching, kind of middle of the pack here. 7th in starters and bullpen ERA, but 2nd in pitching WAR, 1st defensively. You can see they got Todd Stottlemyre. Juan Guzman is actually their number 2. He had 16 wins last year. Stottlemyre, 17 wins last year. 17 and 15, had a lot of decisions. Pat Henkin, you'll recognize that name. Not doing great, but he's still 25. He's still young. He goes to arbitration next year. Joe Hesketh, I do recognize the name. 35 years old, so he was at the back end of when I was really kind of getting into the MLB, following it and stuff when I was a kid. But Mike Henneman, big time closer, 70 movement on the 80 scale. So anyway, that's enough just blowing up the Blue Jays here. That's enough looking at them. Let's look at the Yankees, who made a move here before the deadline. 1st in batting average in the AL, 2nd in runs against, so pretty decent pitching. 4th in starters and bullpen ERA. Let's take a look at their lineup over here and the guys that are some of their top players. Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, top 5 outfielders respectively at their position. Jim Leyritz, they did trade for Hal Morris last year, 70 contact guy, high contact guy. And they got him through 97. So pretty solid team here as well. Mike Gallego is the 9th ranked shortstop. Mike, I don't know this guy. Don't know this guy. Pagliar Luo. Let's check his real life stats. He was up in the 80s. Yeah, he's 34 now. He was up in real life throughout the 80s. He went to San Diego and then into the 90s was with the Twins, kind of up and down a little. Well, he went down to the Florida State League in 92, but he did stay in the majors. So regular guy on the major league roster, just didn't get a whole lot of starts. Yeah, he was kind of just a regular bench guy. Yeah, okay. So now I know who that is. Anyway, he's turned into a good player for them. Good third baseman here for the Yanks. Came from the Twins. We'll see if did they trade for him? Did they sign him? It was a trade in exchange for Brian Buchanan, a rookie who now is in the Twins AA organization. Okay, so big time moves here by the Yankees in the offseason coming into 94. Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson. Johnson was injured for much of the year. He's only pitched 45 innings, and he's kind of, he hasn't been his true self, it looks like, upon coming back. 4.57 ERA. But with that stuff, I mean, he's gonna strike guys out. They got him signed through 99. He was an all-star last year with the injury, wasn't an all-star this year. But Kevin Brown is their ace. Everyone knows that name. That's followed 90s baseball. They got Jimmy Key. Andy Pettit is coming up new. He's one of their top prospects, number 14 ranked prospect in the game. They got him in the 5 in the rotation. And he did come up barely at the end of last year. You can see he pitched a third of an inning. And then this year spent about half of the season so far in AAA. So Jeff Reardon is their closer. Penn doesn't look great, but again, it's apparently it's 4th in bullpen ERA. So that's the Yankees. Two of the top teams right now in the AL. Then we got the White Sox. They're close with the Royals. Frank Thomas, the big hurt, of course. Robin Ventura, top player. Jack McDowell is their ace. Wilson Alvarez, Ron Darling, he's got to be old. He's 33. Bob Patterson with a great ERA, only 8 saves. So it looks like they had Radinsky maybe as their closer before. He had 16 saves, but now he's got a 5.75 ERA, moving him to the setup role. Bob Patterson with outstanding control, 35-year-old guy, lefty that just hits spots, it looks like. But with their, they got speed at the top here. Lance Johnson, Tim Raines. They did sign Mark Grace. So he's their cleanup hitter. He's got 16 jacks. They're second in runs scored. And all these AL teams, no shock there, all these AL teams are the tops in the MLB on runs scored. And interestingly enough, all top 3 teams also are top 3 in batting average. So runs scored usually is a higher correlation with OPS. If we're talking real life statistics in the game, does a great job with that. So kind of interesting that batting average right now is also a high correlator with these top 3 for runs scored. Home runs, just the Blue Jays. I mean, Braves are one of the best teams right now as well, but runs scored, they're not in the top 3. So let's keep moving on here. We'll check out the Royals. Not a big market fancy team, not a lot of big names, but they're getting it done, which is cool. 8th in OPS, that's kind of one of their main offensive stats. Are 3rd in home runs, but looks like they can pitch. 2nd in starters ERA in the AL, 1st in strikeouts. So Kevin Apier, they got Ape. He's a stud. He's 11-6, 3.29 ERA. After that, I mean, these guys don't look great. I wonder, maybe they have some guys in the pen that used to be starting. Like, none of these guys have high stamina. So that's interesting. Yeah, 2nd in starters ERA. Maybe they got some guys on the injured list. Let's check it out. David Cone, 4.07 ERA. He's out for the year. Jose Rosado, looks like he wasn't doing great. Maybe that ERA is adjusted. Maybe they're in a hitter's park and that ERA is adjusted. But down here, the AL is a big time hitting league, as we can see up here. So that definitely could explain a lot of it. They're 2nd in starters ERA, but you look down here in the MLB starters ERA, all 3 National League teams. So it just could be that the AL just doesn't have very good pitching, or the hitting is much better. So Michael Tucker is one of their better players. After that, that's cool, good for them. They don't really have a lot of big names, not a lot of great players. Mickey Tettleton, he's got 23 jacks. Bob Hamlin with 29. Wally Joyner, the only guy hitting over 300. He obviously was a great hitter in real life as well. Only 6 jacks last year. He's doubled that. So it would be cool to see the Royals win that Central. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be at the end of the season here. Let's check out the West. We got the A's just slightly ahead of the Mariners. The A's with Brent Gates, Kurt Abbott, Ricky Henderson. Again, Henderson's a big name, but kind of a smaller market team, not a lot of big names. Traditionally, they've been great at pitching. Looks like that's the case here. They're 1st in starters ERA in the AL. And they got Bobby Witt with a 3.24 ERA, and Al Leiter, who arguably is their ace. They have him in the 2 spot, but he's 11-3 with a 2.15 ERA. 121 innings pitched, a little bit less than Bobby Witt. But Melindo Perez, they got some good names. They signed him in the offseason. Don't believe it was a trade. Let's check here. Signed a contract in the offseason. So he was an all-star last year. Wasn't an all-star this year for not incredibly impressive numbers. But McGuire, interestingly, hitting 7th. He hasn't really taken off as a slugger. In 92, which was the real life stats since I started in this universe in 93. 92, he had 42 jacks and 100 RBIs. 93, a lot of at bats, but only 12 homers, hit 183. So, he just hasn't taken off like he did in real life. I mean, he's 30 years old already. He's got 10 jacks here so far this year. He's slugging over 400. But, his home run power is only a 60. So he just hasn't really developed. He's kind of tapering off. You see all these accolades that he had, just like in real life. He was a stud even before he got real popular. He was Rookie of the Year, Silver Slugger, and All-Star in 92. That was a great year for him. Was a Gold Glover in 1990, Rookie of the Year in 87, All-Star 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, and 92. So in this game, that 93 was his end unless he really gets it going again, but he's already 30. So kind of interesting there with the A's. So that's the A's. Let's move on here. We'll check out the Mariners, then we'll move on to the NL. Mariners with A-Rod, Griffey, Mark Newfield, a 7th ranked center fielder. They have Griffey in left. He's outstanding in left. He probably would be outstanding in center, obviously, with that range and arm and not making errors. So he's obviously incredibly valuable for them. They have him hitting 3rd, got 35 jacks. Jay Buhner in the 2-hole, 336 on base percentage. So he's got a good eye. He does walk despite that low average. And they have A-Rod, the 19-year-old rookie, leading it off. Just look at his potential, and he's already pretty good, even without reaching nearly his potential yet. Apparently, he's self-indulgent. That's pretty funny. Kind of accurate there. The game just randomly assigns the personalities. So you don't have the right, this is just coincidental that he's self-indulgent. But number 1 prospect in the game. He was an all-star this year. Oops, we'll go back to them. Yeah, but a lot of big names here. Tino Martinez at first base. They lost Randy Johnson, of course, to the Yankees in the offseason. But they're still competing. They're looks like their starters ERA is 9th, bullpen 8th. They're a little below the midpoint. So not really any great pitchers. They have Mike Hampton. That's interesting. He's 21 years old. So it looks like this is his rookie year. He pitched 90 innings down in AAA. He's a number 59 ranked prospect. Doesn't look like he's got outstanding ratings, but he's ranked high, ground baller. But Ken Hill, decent name there. He was a good pitcher in real life. Came from Montreal. Had a good season in 93, 3.11 ERA, 15 wins. They have Hanson and Bazio as their 1-2. So they're definitely going to try to outslug you. They're 4th in runs scored, 1st in home runs, top 5 in several of these other offensive categories. So that is the Mariners for you. Braves, the current best team in the game as far as record goes. As we all know, pitching is the thing for the Braves, and no Greg Maddux. So he's injured. So he is on their team, but he's out for 6 months. So he's done for the year. Only pitched 9 innings for them. Had a great game. It looked like 1 walk under a 1 ERA. And he was 1-0. But no Greg Maddux, and they're still dominating. Steve Avery has stepped into the 1 spot. They got Smoltz, Glavine still. Brian Harvey, they signed him in the offseason from Florida. Just a stud closer. In real life, they had Wohlers. I don't know if Wohlers is in their minor league system right now. Could be. But Greg McMichael, just a just an awe. A bullpen and a starting rotation, you got to be in awe over Eric Plunk with a 1.64 ERA. Chipper is a newly non-prospect guy, but he's only 22 years old. Last year was his rookie year. Didn't do great. Played in a lot of games, 114 games, but he's definitely having a great sophomore year now, hitting 330 and slashing high there too. You can see with his on base and his slugging. Mike Stanley, catcher that they signed from the Yankees in the offseason, 21 jacks. They got Klesko, a lot of tough lefties. David Justice with 32 jacks, leading their team in homers. 385, almost slugging 600 with a 387 on base percentage. So Braves, yeah, you can see all these guys, crime dogs, second ranked first baseman in the game. And then look at that, Justice, Avery, all the first. McMichael's the best middle reliever in the game. Avery, the top starting pitcher. That's with Maddux hurt. So Braves are looking good. In this universe, they missed the playoffs in '93. So they don't have their crazy run. And proud to say my Rockies took them down to force a playoff in which they didn't make the Rockies didn't do a playoff with the Braves, but beat them in the final game of the season to force a playoff between the Braves and I believe it was the Giants. Could go back and look, but I believe it was the Giants and the Braves missed the playoffs. So then we got the Expos. They're 9.5 out just because the Braves are so good. Expos are tied with the Astros right now for the wild card. But Expos had a solid team in the early 90s in real life. Still a lot of the same guys, Cliff Floyd, Larry Walker, Delino DeShields, Marquise Grissom. For some reason, they have him hitting 7th. Maybe that's just because he's kind of hurt right now. But he's got 15 jacks, and he's slugging over 500 for them. But they do have some good hitters above him. Craig Colbrun, Mike Blowers with 16 jacks and hitting over 300. Walker's cleanup. So, I'd maybe hit him second because they got this Montoyo. But just because this is their primary lineup, that doesn't mean they do that every time. That's just kind of like what the game is defaulting, I guess. Arthur Rhodes, 15-0, and he's a starter. In real life, he became a reliever. In this game, he's a starter still, but 15-0. Pretty incredible. That'll be fun to keep an eye on him, see how he does. They got John Smiley. Gabe White is their number 1. So not outstanding pitching. They're first in stolen bases in the NL, first in batting average. Starters ERA is 8. Bullpen ERA is better than that. They have Brito as their closer, Mario Brito. In real life, this guy did not make the majors. So that's pretty cool. You see these cool stories in the game here. In real life, 86 was his first year in pro ball and stayed with baseball till he was 34. Looks like he had a gap there between 97 and 99. Maybe he went overseas. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe he was working another job, came back to give it a shot. But he made it to AAA, was the highest he made it. But incredible stuff here by Brito, 75 on the scale. So Delino DeShields, Larry Walker, Marquise Grissom, they're some of their top players. That's Montreal for you. We'll check out the Cards here. Cardinals with not an outstanding offensive lineup. You can see, OPS is 9th, runs scored 7th in the NL, but they're pitching. Starters ERA is 2nd, bullpen ERA is 1st. So they got Mike Morgan, 3.07 ERA, 13-4. He's their top starter, and then just solid guys the whole way here. No one with a bad ERA. I was thinking about trading for Tewksbury as the Rockies, but he's 33. His stuff is just horrible. It's like basically a position player's stuff. But great movement, great control. He's having a good year. He's on 3.4 mil. That's a pretty big contract for the time. And he's through 97. So he's going to be like 36, 37 years old by the time, of his final contract year. And he's on that same amount of money every year. So I passed on that. I could have traded Joe Girardi for him. Instead, I traded Girardi for somebody else. We might cover that in a couple minutes here. But this is St. Louis, great bullpen too. Raggio, 5-1 with a 193 ERA, only 18 innings pitched, not incredible ratings, but he's having a great year. And Grasser is their closer, 22 saves, 80 stuff. He's maxed out. He's as high as you can get. And the cool part of this game, you can actually change it so that it shows if it's above 80, which I don't have it at that. I have it just maxed at 80, but he actually may be, if you have a guy that's at an 80, they actually might be above an 80 for the game's purposes, you know, for his ratings. He could be that good, but it just doesn't show it. I just don't have it showing it. But Grasser, let's see, what does he have? 45 Ks in 39 innings pitched, so well over a strikeout an inning. So that's the Cardinals for you. Let's look at the Stros. 4 games back. No surprise, they're great at pitching. First in starters ERA in the NL. First in runs against. Darryl Kyle, Doug Drabeck, Pete Harnish, sub-3 ERA. I mean, they just have good pitchers all around, 1 through 5. And they got Biggio, Caminiti, Bagwell. Bagwell only the 10th best first baseman in the game. He's not having an outstanding year, but he's having a great year still, I would say. Good year for sure. Last year looked like it was a little better. It was a lot better. 116 ribs, OPS high, so 950, 960 OPS. This year not as good, but still they have him hitting cleanup. He's still good. They got Biggio hitting 2, Steve Finley leading off. Luis Gonzalez, the 5th best left fielder in the game. So they're solid. You know, they definitely may overtake the Cardinals for the division, but we'll see. Yeah, 2 great pitching teams there. Let's look at the West. My team, the Rockies, we're in second, but the West is so weak. We're 15 out, and we're in second place. So we got the Giants definitely going to run away with this division. Of course, big name, Barry Bonds has got 32 jacks. This year, he had 37 last year. It looks like he's going to pass that. He's slugging 650. That's got to be leading. We'll check in a minute. That's got to be leading the MLB, I would think. He's the top player in the game as well as the top left fielder. But they have a lot of highly ranked guys. Matt Williams, 2nd best third baseman. Robbie Thompson, 4th best second baseman. He's hitting cleanup for him as a second baseman. 13 jacks. Matt Williams, 27 jacks, got him in the 2-hole. Will Clark, good pitching too. Yeah, let's check their 3rd in starters ERA. John Burkett, Bill Swift, these guys are under 3 ERA. So they're tough. Giants are tough. I've had to play them a lot, obviously, with the format at the time. You play a lot of teams in your division. Dave Burba is their closer. 2.37 ERA, 25 saves. Rod Beck, the traditional closer in real life, he's one of their middle relief guys and one of their lower ERA. Yeah, Plesac, 34 innings, 6.50 ERA. That's kind of shocking to have him in the setup role, but they're sticking with him. They like him as a lefty. So that's the Giants for you. Let's check out some of the stats here. See some of our leaders. Frank Thomas, batting average leader. There's Hal Morris, mentioned his 70 contact rating for New York. Jim Thome, either a rookie or a second-year guy. Yeah, not a prospect anymore. He was an all-star this year, though. 93 last year was his first year. He had 142 at bats, but 33 jacks. So maybe he is a rookie. It's just not a prospect status anymore. But maybe he's considered a rookie. I guess I don't know how to check. I could spend the time to do it, but let's see. Yeah, AL Batter of the Month. He would have some Rookie of the Month awards if he was still a rookie. So, but he's Batter of the Month. So I mean, he's a stud. They have him at third. They have him at third base. Obviously, first base would be a much better position for him. But who do they have at first here? What do they got? They got Sid Bream at first, 33-year-old, 70 defensively. So they don't. I mean, if they put him at DH, they got Giles at DH, who's a good hitter for them, 370 on base. They got Manny in the outfield, Rick Prieto leading off. Yeah, I mean, maybe for a lot of games they sub him out. I don't know if Giles can play center. He kind of can. They've been trying it. So yeah, they're kind of trying some things. I mean, they are third in the AL Central, 4.5 out. So, you know, they got Albert Bell, of course, in left. So they're not totally trying to look at Tomei as the first ranked third baseman in the game. They're not trying to totally throw in the towel. Obviously, they're still right in this. So they're kind of getting away with what they can. They got Tomei at third, working that. So anyway, Tomei, a great player in this game already as a very young player. Does he go to arbitration next year? He does go to arbitration next year. So he's going to get paid. 1.5 million is his estimate. So yeah, that's batting average there for you. Home runs, Griffey leading with 35. There's Bonds with 32. The big hurt, you know, up there in those categories. So pushing possible MVP. Here's Tomei and Thomas, RBI already at 100. On base percentage, you got both those guys. Bonds right behind him. Ricky Henderson up there. Slugging. Bonds is third. Wow, Tomei is slugging 700. Incredible. 700. We'll see if he can keep that up. I mean, so he's leading in OPS for sure. 1.17. Frank Thomas right behind him. You got 5 guys over 1,000 OPS right now. Pretty incredible there. And most of them are 3 out of the 5 are American League, and then Griffey, so 4 out of 6. You got Cliff Floyd up there, and of course Bonds as the NL guys. So that's kind of those are the main stats here. We almost always have guys up there in triples because of our ballpark. There's Vinny leading the MLB in triples with 11. Stolen bases, Otis Nixon. No Ricky Henderson up here. I don't know if they're not stealing a lot or if he's just not stealing a lot. But we got Otis Nixon, Darren Lewis, Alomar, etc. Guys that you know. All right, let's check out pitching. Pitching leaders here. Al Leiter on Oakland leading in ERA. There's Darryl Kyle. Bunch of NL guys then. Just all NL guys after Al Leiter. So what a year for him pitching in the AL with those kind of numbers. I mean, he'll run away with the AL Cy Young if this stays as it is. Remember, Houston is in the NL back then. Arthur Rhodes, 15 wins, 15-0. Doug Drabeck, 14-7. Let's look at saves. We got Brian Harvey leading it for Atlanta. A lot of wins for Atlanta, of course, so a lot of save opportunities. There's our buddy Brito from Montreal, who never made the MLB in real life. Pitcher WAR, Jose Rijo of the Reds leading by far, 7.3. Moose there in innings pitched. He's having a good year. Not a great win-loss record because he's on the Orioles. Shutouts, we got Apier leading with 3. Of course, one of my Rockies here leading the league in walks. Fortunately, just 1. And let's look at, Ks per 9. Tom Goodwin of the Mets. Tom Goodwin with 55 stuff. And I have a very high scouting accuracy on that. So that's pretty interesting, having the highest K per 9 rate with 143 innings pitched with not outstanding stuff. So, all right. Yeah, here we go. Here's one of the Rockies. That's cool. Walks per 9. David Wells. I signed him in the offseason. 4.87 ERA for me, but he's having a good year. He just got blown up recently, so that's a little misleading. So let's look at some of the trade. Well, first here, power rankings. Braves first, Giants second. So power rankings, 4 NL teams, and then you got the Blue Jays and then the Yankees. But Braves, Giants. Now, this year, they'll both be able to make the playoffs. Last year was 93, which was the final year of just 2 divisions in each league. So you had the AL East, AL West, NL East, NL West. And that's why these teams went off against each other in the playoff to get into the playoffs, the 1-game playoff, and the Braves didn't make it. So Braves, Giants, Cardinals, Expos in that order. And then you got Blue Jays, Yankees, Stros down there 7th. They'll be competing with Montreal for the wild card. Okay, so let's look at some of the trades here as we neared the trade deadline. Couple big ones here. Dennis Eckersley going to the Philadelphia Phillies from Los Angeles Dodgers, who are totally out of it. They're in that terrible NL West. So they got rid of Eck. They signed him in the offseason, and he's a free agent through next year. So they'll have him for another year. But one of the most accomplished relievers in the game, in real life and in this game. So they got some prospects out of it. They're trying to just rebuild. Kevin Cefic, not great. Larry Mitchell. Yeah, Eckersley is a 39-year-old on a pretty big contract. That's probably not a great trade bait. But the Phillies got him. The Brewers. This is interesting because this happened in real life. The Brewers got Richie Sexson from the Indians. In real life, it happened later on after he was more established. Right now, he's 19 years old. He's not a top 100 prospect, but he still looks pretty good. He's in rookie ball. This is second year of pro ball. And they got Jaime Navarro in return. Cleveland did, and Jeff Cirillo. So a couple pretty good major leaguers. Cirillo only 24, not proven yet, but he's solid. He's solid. He's on the minimum still. And Jaime Navarro, 27 years old, not a bad starting pitcher there. Let's look at their numbers. 5.71 ERA. Jaime not doing great. 93, he was much better. And Cirillo, again, just kind of getting it going. He was up last year for 150 at bats, only 50 games. He's barely been up this year. He's had 16 at bats. So they're looking to give him a shot, I guess. Indians. I mean, again, they're pretty stacked. So when I say give him a shot, I guess they're just more keeping him on the roster, just keeping him up, because it says he is on their major league roster. They don't have him in the minors. So Indians making probably a pretty good move, for Sexson. Los Angeles doing some more work, offloading some more players. Brett Butler, 37 years old, 375 on base percentage. Sent him to the Giants. So Giants improving their squad. Butler probably will lead off here instead of Darren Lewis, I assume. But they got some prospects in return. Well, not a prospect. Peterson is 23, but he's been up this year. 32 innings, 3.06 ERA in the pen. And then here's a minor leaguer prospect, AA, Armando Rios, and Valdez, who has a high stuff rating and potential at 70, and Craig Mays, the catcher. So he's having a good year in rookie ball, slugging over 400. So, yeah, interesting move there. Gave up Brett Butler, who's a good hitter for him, but he is old and he's on a pretty big contract. So Giants really trying to go for it even more. New York, here's a big name, shipping away Mariano Rivera, top 100 prospect. He's the 42nd ranked prospect in the game. I know this isn't real impressive right here, but he's a starter right now. He's a starting pitcher. So obviously in real life, they moved him to the pen, one of the best relievers ever. But in this game, he's a starter and he's still ranked pretty high, top 100. So New York gave up Rivera. They added Jeff Reardon, great relief pitcher, 80 movement, 75 stuff. Haven't had a pretty good year for Cincinnati. 4.37 ERA. That's not nearly what he was the prior year. 2.69 ERA. And then this Dave Tuttle, minor leaguer, rookie guy. So those, I believe, are the biggest moves here. Yeah, Ray Durham, he's a big name, but he's not yet in this game, and he's not a top 100 prospect. He's fast. In real life, he ended up being pretty good, but White Sox got rid of him, sent him to Detroit. Dodgers making more moves, got rid of Tony Fossis, I think that's how you say his name. I do remember him in real life, but he was a decent reliever for them, 3.78 ERA. And they did send Chan-Ho Park. He had to be one of their better prospects. He's not a top 100 guy, but he had to be one of their better prospects. He's pretty decent in the ratings. Not good control yet. Potential control could be okay. So they sent those guys. They got Brett Fiotu in return, if that's how you say his name. Not a good contact guy, excellent eye, and he can steal. So let's see in real life. Yeah, he never made it out of single A. So in this game, he's already in triple A. So they expect him, they must think he could potentially be pretty good by giving up a couple pretty good players there. I mean, they're taking a chance. Let's say Philadelphia got a good deal there. And yeah, that's kind of it for the big names here. Eric Davis. All right, so let's check out what we've done as the Rockies here. So you'll see some new names here. We're 48-60. We've been on a tough skid here lately. You can see we've been playing the Giants, just got swept by them. Played the Padres and we lost that series. And before that, we were actually real hot. It was against Florida, who's terrible right now. Swept them. Won the series against the Cubs. Won a 5-game series against St. Louis with a doubleheader involved in there right here. And as we know, St. Louis is good. That was coming right out of the All-Star break. So we were running with some momentum, and now it's swung back the other way. So before the trade deadline, I did make some moves because we're not going to make the wild card here. I mean, there's some real good record teams going after it. So we will look at our trade deadline transactions. We go to July here. And let's find trades here. So traded Joe Girardi away. He was popular. He's well known. That ended up hurting my fan interest a little bit. But that's how it goes because I got a good deal. I thought I was able to get rid of Jim Olander, who's on my 40-man roster. He's on the minimum. He's 31, and he's not going to make. He's got good gap power, and I've given him shots up in the majors. Looks like the Cardinals have him on their MLB roster, so they're giving him a shot there. But he was in AAA for me. He was actually doing great. If you can see those stats there in AAA, good slugging percentage. He came up for 17 at bats. The year before, 93, he had a lot more chances. Here's his numbers. 93. He played in 47 games. I guess only 72 at bats. So I guess shouldn't say a lot of chances, but he just never was impressing me, and he's already 31. So it just made sense for me to get rid of him. Got rid of Girardi, and I got Manny Ibar in return. So he's a starter. I need some starting pitching. The ratings aren't great. In this game, though, it's hard to get starting pitchers that have like really good ratings. I don't know why that is. I mean, if you're like average here, it's kind of good. Like average ratings are good for a starting pitcher in this game. I guess just because it's so coveted. It's just so hard to get those starting pitchers that were good. And it could have been the era. We're coming into the roid era where everyone's hitting jacks. Just high offensive era. A lot of offense, a lot of home runs. So that could be part of it as well. So anyway, that was the trade there. That was kind of my one of my big moves. But as far as getting rid of guys, a move that wouldn't have been as well known at the time, but you'll recognize the name here because he is a top prospect in the game right now, and I gave up one of my top prospects, but he's not a well-known player yet, got Jim Edmonds. So traded Jason Bates, who was the 77th ranked prospect. He's a highly ranked prospect. He was my second best prospect next to Jason Schmidt, my second best prospect in my organization. In real life, he was okay. I mean, he made, yeah, here's real life. He made the Rockies roster several years. And, you know, he was right around average, maybe a little below once in a while. But in this game, we've developed him well. And he's the number 77 ranked prospect. So shopped him around because I have some good infielders, like some middle infielders, especially. I have Quentin McCracken, who is a second baseman, and he's one of my top prospects. Let's see, go to overview here. So now he's my second best prospect, who's not actually up in the majors. So Schmidt, McCracken, Ryan Turner, but McCracken is a good infielder, and I have some other guys here. EY is really coming along this year, so he's going to be playing second. Vinny, I like him at short, and he's a power hitter right now, just like in real life. He's coming along, so I like him there. Castellano playing third, and he was a top 100 prospect before he lost his prospect status. He's 24. He's on the minimum. So I just don't really have room for Bates. So I shopped him around and got Jim Edmonds, who was the number 10 ranked prospect at the time. And then we threw in the Shad Williams, who's kind of a no name. He's getting rocked, and or he was getting rocked in AAA. So I put him down in my AA. Looks like he pitched decent. But anyway, Jim Edmonds, number 10 ranked prospect at the time that I traded for him. I don't know if he'll stay at that. Not great at defense, so different than in real life. You know, he hasn't developed to be good defensively here. Obviously, in real life, he was outstanding defensively. But he can hit here. He still hasn't reached his potential, but he's got good gap power already, and he can hit. And he's actually having a great year so far. You can see there with California, he in 24 at bats, not a lot, but he was OPSing near 1,000. And then with me in 20 at bats, he's OPSing over 1,000. So I thought that was a good deal. I do have a pretty good outfield. This Jose Malave was he a top 100 or was he just out of the top 100? Yeah, he was named the number 100 prospect in '93. And then he fell out. He's like 119. But I traded him earlier in the year. This was over a month ago. Got rid of Bruce Ruffin, who now with Boston looks like he's having a great year. 251 with me is a 5.92 ERA. His contract, he's through 95. He's on pretty good money. So I don't remember if I included that in the last video. I don't think I did, but got rid of him and Jeff Parrott. Parrott with me, 4.91 ERA. Looks like he's doing better with Boston as well. He's got 6 innings pitched though. That's it. But both these guys were stud relief pitchers for me last year, but they're on pretty good money. And Parrott's a free agent after this year. He's on 750. And Ruffin, again, he would have one more year, but he was also demanding a trade. Neither of the guys were very popular. So, you know, unknown status, and Ruffin was like fair locally, insignificant. And that, I don't know if that switched now that he's with Boston. But anyway, I have some other decent relief pitchers. Darren Holmes, he was ready to step into the closer role, and he has done that well. Got Rob Nen, who's one of my top prospects that I brought up. Willie Blair had a good year last year, not having a great year this year. Service had a good year last year, real good year last year, not a great year this year. But these guys, you know, I want to keep giving these guys shots. I'm not playing for right now, playing for the future. Gab Ozuna, he's was tearing it up in AA, 22 innings and a 1.23 ERA. So I brought him up, and he's doing fine. And he was going to be Rule 5 eligible anyway. So needed to put him on my 40-man and protect him. Dave Oerlein, I really liked this guy last year. He ended up, I brought him up toward the end of the year, and he ended up faltering off a little. You see that 4.75 ERA in 93. I didn't start him on the squad. I don't believe I started him on my opening day roster this year. Let's see. Yeah, he's been optioned once this year, so maybe I did, but he went down 5.28 ERA in AAA. Granted, that's the Pacific Coast League, which is a very offensive league. The game factors that in. So now he's back up, and he's due. I'll take a 4.03 ERA all day as the Rockies. And then I got Ibar, who's a young guy that I traded for. Got Carter, I believe, off of waivers. Yeah, claimed him on waivers. Obviously, he's got rocked his couple games he's pitched with me. But anyway, I've got these guys. I thought I'd get rid of Ruffin and Parrott, some older relievers, to make room. And if we look at my relief pitchers here, I got some good guys in the minors. Kotarski, he's probably ready right now. He's having a good year in AAA. Had a great year last year. Christopher Henderson, great stuff, and even better stuff potential, and he's tearing it up at single A. Had an outstanding year in rookie ball last year. So these guys, and I got Schmidt coming up soon. I mean, he's not doing great right now with the Sky Sox in AAA, but he's still number 31 ranked prospect in the game. So I got some room here to bring these guys up. I made room by getting rid of Ruffin and Parrott, and I freed up money. So we've got $5 million for free agents. Extensions, we got $6 million, but our upcoming free agents, we don't really have. It's just this Knudsen, and he's terrible this year at 8.78 ERA in AAA. He's 33 years old, so I'm definitely not going to be re-signing him. I might as well just maybe actually release him. I don't know if they're playing him a lot. He's pitched 13 innings, so they're not. So, in fact, I am going to just do that right now. Might as well. It's made him happy. He was unhappy. Good. Now he's free, so he can look for other teams, which I don't think they'll pick him up. So anyway, we'll move on here. That's where we're at with the Rockies. So we got Jim Edmonds. Here's kind of my lineup now. EY, Edmonds, Braulio, still having a good year despite ratings not being great, except for his gap power. Great gap power. Everything else is kind of below average. But he was an all-star last year. Didn't make the all-star team this year. Still having close to as good of a year. Not quite as far as on base and slugging, but batting average is up there. We got Galarraga, who's one of the best first basemen in the game. Number three ranked first baseman. Here's some of my numbers. Batting average, obviously my offensive numbers are pretty decent. And pitching, that's going to be our tough spot. 13th. So we're not dead last. I wonder who is. It's got to be the Marlins. Marlins are a terrible team right now. Let's look at them. Marlins, yep. Starters ERA, at least they're dead last. Bullpen ERA, they are not. So someone's worse than us and the Marlins as far as bullpen ERA. So then we got Vinny fifth. Castellano, again, used to be a top 100 guy last year. Lost his prospect status. Had a pretty good year with me last year. Not doing quite as well this year. He's below average for sure. But I want to give him a bats. He's 24 years old. This Malave was a top 100 guy. As I mentioned, I got him from Boston in a trade. That was when that was in the Ruffin and Parrott deal. So straight up got them for him. So we'll see if he pans out. He's an outfielder. We also have Jim Edmonds, of course, in the outfield. So and Jayhawk. So I got rid of Girardi because I want to give Jayhawk a shot to be my catcher of the future. Last year, 93, he had 160 at bats, and he didn't do terrible. His average wasn't good, but he slugged over 400, on base 324. He's having a down year, worse than that. I shouldn't say down year because he's not established yet. But he's only had, he hasn't had that many at bats. He's had 128 bats this year. So I'm going to start getting him in there a lot. I do have Trent Hubbard, who I don't have in my regular starting lineup, which is kind of a travesty because he's one of my best hitters, as you can see, 319, 364, 470 slashing. But he's 30. He's 30, and he's a utility guy. He can play wherever, so I like him. I'm going to hang on to him for sure. He's on the minimum, but I want to get these young guys at bats. I want to keep him sharp. He plays now and then, and he is kind of a regular. He is more of a regular starter. I just don't have him in my default lineup here, but I do get him in a lot. I give guys days off, or if they're tired, like Castellano tired. With Hubbard being utility, can move that around and get him in the lineup somewhere. So I like Hubbard a lot, but I'm getting all these younger guys at bats to try to get them to pan out, to accelerate them. So So anyway, I like where we're at for next year. I think next year we could be all right. That's what you always hear. Next year's our year, right? But I wasn't kidding anyone in 93. I knew we probably weren't going to do much for 94. You never know. I mean, we went out and got David Wells, but and Reynoso, so that I haven't shown you Reynoso yet, but he got hurt. He came back and he's had an outstanding season since coming back. 55 innings pitched and a 2.60 ERA. So in context, with that being park adjusted, that's a 1.80 ERA plus for meaning he's 80% above average, 100 being the average. So he's having a great year. I like what they have to say about him. Great leadership. He seems like a captain type guy. So with these two guys, Mo Sanford, if he can cut the walks down, he strikes a lot of guys out. Butch Henry had a great year last year, 3.54 ERA with 15 wins. Not having a good year this year, but he's 25. Going to keep giving him innings. And then we got Jason Schmidt in our minors. And then, some decent guys in the pen. So I think hopefully 95. Hey, in real life, the Rockies made the wild card in 95. I'm shooting for hopefully that. We'll see how it goes. But the rest of 94 here, I'm going to be rebuilding. I'm going to be playing guys that we just want to get innings to, see how they pan out. So that's my plan going forward. That's where the MLB is at here so far as well in 94. Braves looking good. They're probably going to make the playoffs for sure. Giants going to make the playoffs. Wild card will be close between the Expos and the Stros, most likely. But you might have the Cardinals falling down there if the Stros surpass them. Expos, if they're not going to. They have either the wild card or bust, most likely, because of the Braves. Over here, Blue Jays, Yankees, that'll be a tight race. One of those teams may make the wild card. White Sox, Royals, tight race. One of those teams might make the wild card. So it's going to be real interesting to see how the AL pans out. And then A's 3.5 ahead on the Mariners, but that's still a tight race. That's close. And most likely one of those teams won't come into the wild card. Only 54 wins. They're still, pretty far out of it here. 6.5. Next, Seattle's 10 out. So I would say wild card's probably coming out of the Central or the East here in the AL. So anyway, thanks for following along. I'll got to get some other stuff done, get away from out of the park baseball here, but I'll come back soon and I'll sim up until the end of the season and then we'll recap at that point.